Welcome back, everybody, to the Transfer Portal Podcast presented by No Context CFB. Got my boy George with me and his dog in the background. George, what's the dog's name?
This is Bauer.
Bauer?
Yeah, Bauer.
Nice. He's just, right on time. When we started the show, he said, let me get a front row seat.
Of
Nice.
course, man.
Yeah, man. Another week of college football. We're going to recap everything. Busy week. George, how are we doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, this week was awesome. It was billed as a pretty good week in terms of some big matchups, and we thought we were going to find out a lot this week. And everything that we thought we were going to find out, I'm still having a lot of questions about a lot of teams. So we'll go through all the big games, and then a couple of our takeaways about some of the games, takeaways about some of the teams, and then some stuff to send you home with takeaways for the entire week and disappointments and our top six and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Let's get right into it. The biggest game of the week, no doubt, coming in was Penn State versus Ohio State. Trying to figure out, is Penn State good? They haven't played anybody. So what were your takeaways from that game?
Yeah, the is Penn State good question always comes down to, are they still going to be little brother against the Ohio States and the Michigans? Penn State couldn't really do anything. I think that's a factor of one, Ohio State's defense being good and maybe better than some people even give them credit for, and two, I don't know what was going on with Penn State's play calling. They were not playing to their strengths. They weren't dinking and dunking and letting Drew Lar get comfortable. He was missing throws. Their run game is their strength, and they weren't really relying on their run game the way they should have. Their run game, I think they're averaging like over 4 yards a carry, and just for some reason abandoned that. So I'm not really even sure who to blame for the Penn State loss, but that was they got beat pretty handedly by Ohio State in Columbus. So I think that means Ohio State's pretty good, and Penn State, I mean, we can't rely on the early season beating up on a couple Big Ten West teams.
Can't rely on beating up on Rutgers. But watching that game, I was also skeptical, like, who do you blame, right? Because I don't think Penn State defense, I thought they were fine.
They
but
were
on
fine
offense,
for the most part.
I don't know if it was Drew Aller, if it was James Franklin, the offensive line, what was going on. I lean towards James Franklin personally. I just feel like all coming into this season, all I heard was Drew Aller, he's the next big thing. He's the Heisman. He's this, he's that. And me personally, I've said in previous podcasts, I'm skeptical because I haven't seen it. I think I mentioned on the preview that he's known for over 300 yards once this season, but he's supposed to be this guy, right? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't sure if it was a product of them just sleepwalking through their schedule, or maybe James Franklin doesn't trust them. In walks Ohio State, a legit defense, and it just looked like James Franklin had no clue what his identity was. It's kind of like you said, like they built their brand on running the football. Mm-hmm. They ran the ball 26 times, right? They weren't even down that much. They just abandoned the run.
Yeah, they abandoned what they're good at. And also, I couldn't tell, like you said early on, if it was Drew Lar, not being trusted or whatever, or if they just didn't really need him to be that guy. They were just leaning on teams. And you can lean on teams when you're that good. But yeah, it didn't look too good. And everyone called him, everyone, was hyping him up. We called him on the gambling podcast, like someone called him the prince that was promised. And I thought that was really funny. So, but no, I guess they're going to have to wait a little bit for him.
But yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. And then as a key play, I'm pretty sure it was the first half. It was like 3rd and 5 on Ohio State's like 45, right? Mm-hmm. 3rd and 5. If you have, it was a pivotal game. It was kind of like the game was tight, and Penn State had a chance to really take the edge. It's 3rd and 5. You have a chance to really, you get a first down. You're driving, take the momentum from the game, take the crowd out the game, and they just dive play.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you say you have the guy, put the ball in his hands. Mm-hmm. Let him go be the guy.
And a dive play, yeah.
It was just so, I remember instinctively, I'm like, okay, it's 3rd and 5. Get the ball to Drew Aller. Let him go and lead this team. It's time. It's
Yeah.
time. It's time to show what you got if you want to be national champion. And James Franklin, he was going to run the ball, die play. They got a yard. They punted from their Ohio State's like 40, 42. It's like
Yeah.
I'm just go win the game.
It's that, and then my first thought was, okay, they're trying to set up to actually go for this on fourth down, but
That's what I
you're
thought
giving
too.
a shotgun dive, like, and I like it's a shotgun dive that's you don't have any blocking, and you also know Ohio State's defense is good, and Jim Knowles is very very aggressive, and he knows that's coming, so he just blitzed linebackers up the middle, and you're gonna get stuffed. Like, even if you have great running backs, where are they gonna go? So I don't know. I was frustrated, and that to me circles right back to the play calling. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, give Drew Lar something to do, or something else to look at. Except like it was like an awkward RPO dive, like from
Yeah.
shotgun. I hated that, but no, he did miss some throws too, which made me a little concerned. There were just shorting guys, out routes that he should be hitting, because he's had an entire offseason with these receivers. It was not a quarterback competition. So yeah, stuff like that scares me a little bit for Drew Lard. But I do think Penn State, it's like I want to say they're okay, but they don't beat teams when they have to beat teams, like the good teams that they come up against every year, Ohio State and Michigan. And then, if they make bowl games, they just don't show up in big games. So I don't really know where to go from here, because it just seems like it's their identity at this point. And like, it's like how many times can you do the same thing and expect a different result?
Yeah, I don't want to harp on Penn State. Let's talk about the winners.
Okay, that's
Oh,
fair. That's fair.
that's fair. Ohio State they went and won the game. Marvin Harrison Jr. They finally got on the ball. Took them a little bit for them to get
Mm.
going, but what do you think about Kyle McCord? Do we trust him?
I would say I trust him, but I can't tell if like I trust him because of how talented everyone else is. Like, they're like Marvin
I mean,
Harrison,
that works though,
running
right?
running a slant route, and he just goes to the house, and you're like, oh, cool. Penn State, like, their players pick themselves. It's a good route concept. Kate Stover, I mean, he's my guy. I'm gonna harp on Kate Stover,
Yes.
but he makes catches in traffic, and he makes really good catches. So he was there as an outlet. And then, I mean, obviously, Gus Johnson let us know that Marvin Harrison was on the field over and over. We're all gonna have
What did he call him?
PTSD
What
from
was
that.
it?
He called him
Maserati
Maserati
Marv.
Marv every single play. I was like, oh my god, I couldn't even go on Twitter because there's all Maserati Marv, like people ripping on it. But no, Kyle McCord, I think he's doing the right stuff, right? He's doing enough. He'll take deep shots if they're there, but he doesn't really have to. And he didn't look comfortable in the first half. He looked a little more comfortable in the second half, but I mean, it was more like they didn't really need him to like lead the charge and put the ball in his hands and do anything spectacular. So you didn't have to. But no, I thought both quarterbacks looked definitely uncomfortable in the first half, but it's a nice little outlet when you got Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, no. Either way, big win for Ohio State. We'll see what Penn State looks like. Going forward, they got there's a 2 game schedule for them, right?
Yeah,
Michigan and
exactly.
Ohio State. So let's get another top 5 matchup. I mean, another top 5 team was in a ranked matchup. Florida
Mhm.
State, Duke. Florida State look kind of good. Like they might have I don't know. I might be hopping on the Florida State bandwagon.
Florida State look good. It's just it is sad because like this game came down to Riley Leonard going out, and I
Yes.
know I know he doesn't play defense, so it's like they Duke's defense was great until he went out, and that's is that Florida State just having staying power and Duke really getting gassed a little bit, or their quarterback couldn't really do all that much and had to keep the defense on the field, right? So I wasn't really, I'm not 100% sold on Florida State, but I mean, you can't blame the loss squarely on Riley Leonard going out because you gave up 2 touchdowns, I think, or maybe even 3 after he went out. So
Yeah.
it's
3
it's
21-0 in the fourth quarter.
yeah, like you can't do that and expect to win a top 5 matchup. So but no, I mean, before that it was a great game. The first half
Yeah.
was fantastic.
Yeah, I have the saying it's no such thing as an ugly win. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah,
sometimes,
count it.
sometimes, sometimes you got to find a way to get it done. Because like we've seen, USC couldn't get it done. We've seen it
Mhm.
before. UNC didn't get it done. and they did. It's another Wayne win. It looks good for them. Jordan Travis finally is looking a little bit more healthy, I
Mhm.
think. Still in the mark for a Heisman. You beat Duke, you beat Clemson. You still have, Miami doesn't look too good now,
Mhm.
but
I mean,
Florida,
Clemson's sketchy too. Clemson's sketchy
Clemson's
too.
sketchy
Let's be
too.
real. Let's be real.
You're right. You're right. Clemson. We'll talk about them later.
Yeah.
But Florida's not looking terrible.
Mhm.
North Carolina, that was going to be a big game. We'll see
Mhm.
how that looks later. But Florida State, Dukies. I feel so bad for Riley Leonard, man. You could tell just when they would cut to him on the sideline trying to run it off, it was like, oh,
Yeah, it was brutal. And it's like this was his first game back, right? Or
yeah,
second game back. Yeah,
yeah.
like oh my god. Yeah, no, you felt terrible like cuz you feel for the guy and they
Mm-hmm.
are a different team with him, but no, I think Jordan Travis did look a little more comfortable because he was a little shaky in games past this year, but I mean Florida State just looked pretty good. So I don't know if I'm 100% putting, myself on their bandwagon, but this was a pretty good win against a good defense. And I mean, putting up 38 points, I think that's what they put up, right? Like 38 points against
Mm-hmm.
Duke. Like, yeah, that's a pretty solid win to hang your hat on. And like you said, don't apologize. No, Florida State's not going to apologize for being undefeated. And we'll see what the Heisman race looks like. I think we're going to talk about it a little bit later as we're wrapping up. But yeah, I mean, this could just be an attrition battle for the Heisman race of who's just
Honestly.
still around. So
Let's talk about another team that might be legit again. Alabama versus Tennessee. I know you're high on Alabama too, aren't you? You got them ranked above Texas.
I I'm pretty high on Alabama. It's mostly because Texas gives me the scaries on a lot of games, and
Understandable.
I mean them letting Houston back in the game, and now that Quinn Ewers is hurt, so it's a little frightening. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, no, I think Alabama looks very good, and I called this game the my definition of they had us in the first half. Not gonna lie, like Tennessee, I picked Tennessee, as a sprinkle for an upset on our gambling podcast. I was like, the value like 275 is just super super high for plus money for like basically a rivalry game now. It didn't seem like a rivalry game for about 10 years, but yeah, after last year I was like anything could happen. I think Joe Milton could get hot and Tennessee has playmakers and Alabama I don't fully trust, but Alabama is just I mean, it's another team of just staying power. They play four quarters. They are going to push you around. And Tennessee just, I mean, after being up with a 10-0 in the first quarter, it just completely like the wheels just started to fall off, and it started to look real ugly after a little bit. So, no, I think Alabama's legit, but also, I mean, I want Alabama to be legit because that makes Texas look a lot better, right? So,
Yes. I find myself rooting for them too all the time. It's good for the brand. It's good for the brand if they
yeah,
keep
man.
winning. But yeah, I mean, I want to give a shout out to both quarterbacks, honestly, Jalen Miro
Mhm.
and Joe Milton. I think they probably have been the two most scrutinized quarterbacks in the SEC for sure, probably in
Mhm.
the country. And they didn't play great, but I think they played serviceable. They made it look like they could play college football at quarterback. And I said on the preview that I thought this game was going to be low scoring, and for a while there, it looked like it, and Alabama just turned it on.
Mhm.
I agree. I think they are legit. I think can't really judge a team based off a week two performance,
Mhm.
either good or bad. Alabama, they look good. I don't see a team better than them right now. Maybe LSU because I think LSU has the best quarterback in the conference, but we'll see about them next. Is it next week or in 2 weeks?
I think LSU is in 2 weeks, but
2 weeks.
I could be wrong. I got to look at that, but no, we'll see because also I mean LSU is on a war path after losing two
Yeah.
games, so but yeah, no, I do think Jalen Milroe definitely turned it around. I think he just needed honestly he just needed reps. Like he came in, they weren't exactly sure because I mean the last couple of quarterbacks that they've had have operated like a little bit different of an offense and it's a little bit different of a looking offense with what's his name, Tommy Reese calling
Tommy Reese.
plays and stuff like that. But yeah, no, I think he's kind of coming to his own, and then just trusting your guys. Like you are Alabama. Like I think it takes guys a little bit to realize, like, hey, all I have to really do is get like one of these guys the ball in space, and like have them do something. My defense is going to show up. Even if they give up a little bit more than Alabama's used to. I mean, they can put up points, if they have to. And then he does throw a good deep ball. So I guess both of them do. I can't mention a good deep ball in the same game as Joe Milton and not bring him up. But well,
would
yeah,
you say Bama's a favorite right now, or LSU, or Ole Miss?
I would
Probably not Ole
I
Miss,
would
but
probably man, I would probably take LSU over Bama right now, which is kind of crazy after the rocky start that they had. But I think they're clicking. I think finally Daniel's like kind of figured it out. And Alabama doesn't. I don't really know how well they can play with like a team that's going to put up 40 points. They can put up some points, but they're not really built for that. And I think that was a little bit exposed with Texas, because Texas hit deep shots and all of a sudden Alabama didn't really know what to do, and they tried to like change up their offense, and they tried to like run some option with Milrow, and it gets a little bit lost there. So it's kind of crazy to be taking a two-loss team as a favorite for Alabama. I
I
think the
mean,
line's probably going to open up at like 3.5 Alabama, but I forget where the game is at, because I feel like that's actually going to matter.
it is in Tuscaloosa.
I think it's Alabama 3.5 is what it's going to open at, but I would
Yeah,
probably take LSU if you made me choose right now.
LSU coming off a bye week. Too,
Yeah,
they're coming off a
exactly.
bye week for that, so we'll see. All right, we got to talk about the Pac-12, right? The best conference in the country, and we had a game that many people were looking forward to, and I think it
Mhm.
lived up to the hype. USC Utah.
Yeah, it lived up to the hype in like, kind of the way that everyone destructively wanted it to. This was the, Caleb Williams, will he bounce back game? And the answer was pretty much no. Like he didn't really bounce back the way everyone thought he was going to, the way he sort of promised he was going to. It was a little bit ugly, for him. And then, I mean, Utah just I still can't believe, and I actually took USC -7. I thought he was gonna have a bounce back game, and I just, I was not really buying this Utah team without Cam Rising coming back, now that he's basically out indefinitely. So terrible for him, because I mean, Cam Rising was awesome to watch there, but it just shows me that Utah is like actually a good football team. They're super physical. Their defense is great. Their secondary's, good, and actually, moves to the ball and pushes around the USC receivers. So, um, no, good game, but I mean, this was this was kind of the end of the line for USC and Caleb Williams Heisman hopes, I think. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's people have been teasing it. Like everybody's talking about USC, Washington, Oregon, and
Mm-hmm.
then in comes Utah is going to just steamroll everybody and ruin everything once again. Ruin the flashiness.
Mm-hmm.
No disrespect to Utah, but they're not. Their brand isn't as flashy as like Oregon, USC, obviously, right?
No, there's a reason they keep them after dark, but
Yes, but I mean, you can't put them away,
mm-hmm.
and I don't personally. I don't think Cam Rising is going to play again. I think he takes the red shirt year.
I think so
Um,
too.
I think it's kind of smart. I hate I hate to be this guy. I don't want to. I'm not some who was Emmanuel Acho, the business decision thing. I'm not. Well, I'll talk about that later. But just if you get healthy, right? If you're
Yeah.
not, I mean, if you can play in the Pac-12 championship, sure, go for it because that won't burn your red
Mm-hmm.
shirt. But just come back next year. The draft class is going to look a lot lighter than what it
Mm-hmm.
is this year. I mean, it'd be smart. They're winning, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not saying they don't need them because you always need Cam Rising, but
Yeah.
they're doing fine without him. We just ride it till the wheels fall off. And for USC, I mean,
The
I
wheels fell
thought this
off.
was the year. I thought this was the year. I genuinely did, but
Mm-hmm.
just the same old, same old. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's over. Um, I hope
Yeah.
Caleb Williams plays. I don't want to. I don't buy that sit out stuff. Like go play with your team, perfect your craft. Because I don't care how good you are, you have things to work on.
Yeah, I don't fully buy that either. Especially, it's not coming from him at all, so I
Yeah,
don't really buy that. But no, I think it's smart. I would probably say smart for Cam Rising to sit out, and that's also because I mean, if the ultimate goal is the NFL, right? You that's like the last memory I want to see is, I guess, yeah, the Rose Bowl and great, but like it's him sitting on the sideline for a whole year, and then everyone seeing Utah do almost just as good without him is a little like, all right, we want to see, is that like a good system you're in? Like, what do you really, I want to see him like take them to the next level. And I think, Utah seems like they're around here, they're around to stay. So I would love to see him come back. And, that's one guy I've known. A lot of these guys, I'm like, oh man, all right,
mhm.
it's time for you to go get a job. You're like in your mid 20s, but no, Cam Rising. I mean, the guy's had a long road. He's been a couple different schools. Obviously started at Texas, but no, I would actually like to see him like, he's a good guy. I want to see him like on top, actually go out on his own accord, not just,
Yeah.
because he had to like, stay on the sidelines.
But I mean, at the same time, it's if he can come back. I mean, this Utah team, they can compete for it's
Mhm.
wide open. You mentioned it. You don't know who's good, who isn't. It's it's wide open. If he can come back, I think he can take them to college football playoff championship level.
I mean, he definitely at least compete for that. Like preseason, I had USC go into the playoff. I mean, everyone I know the transfer portal. We got a bunch of West Coast homers that are putting up Oregon and Washington in the top two, top five, and that was a great game. Like that was a little bit of a battle of titans. But after this past week, I mean, I'm starting to question like, okay, was that just two very evenly matched teams, or was it like what are we looking at here? Are they really like a top, both top five teams in the nation? So, no, I think Utah, absolutely can hold their own against both of those teams. And do they play both? I know they play. I know they play at
Um,
least one, but um, I gotta take a look at their schedule.
Utah, they play Oregon this weekend,
Okay,
and they play Washington in 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, week
man, what a
the 11th.
gauntlet.
Yeah, they got Oregon, Arizona State, Washington, Arizona, Colorado.
Okay, yeah, no, that's I think they have a pretty good
Oregon's
shot at
at
both of
home,
those
Washington
games.
is away.
Okay.
That changes.
No, I think they could hold their own, either or. And defense travels. I think they have a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
defense. So I kind of like their chances. Kind
I
of like their
mean,
chances to run both of those, to
yeah,
be honest.
if
But
they have Oregon at home, I think that's
mhm.
big. And then in 2 weeks after that, if Cam Rising's ready for it to go to Husky Stadium,
Yeah, man, go
that
up to
might be the game
Seattle.
that might be the game you try and steal because
Yeah.
they already have a Pac-12 loss, so they can't afford another one. That's
Mhm.
Oregon State, but that Washington game that might be the game where it Cam, if you're ready to go, let's go steal one.
Yeah, no, we'll see. We'll see how he's feeling. It was just I remember they kept saying like week to week or
Mm-hmm.
maybe like 4 to 6 weeks or something, and then all of a sudden like last week they're like, oh yeah, no shot for this one. I was like, okay.
All right, so talk about some of the big games. Talked about rankings in college football. I want to know me your top six. College football playoffs rankings come out soon. What are your top six?
All right, so my top six, I've been relatively consistent on my top couple of teams, but I have Michigan number one. I don't really think you can argue too much with that because I understand the Penn State argument of they haven't played anyone, but they've actually taken care of business against everyone they played. I mean, playing Michigan State this weekend and just smoking them in a rivalry game is, again, I know Michigan State's bad, but it's a rivalry game. So taking care of business is always important to me. I have Georgia number two. Really hard to fault Georgia, even though they are undefeated and haven't looked amazing, but they're undefeated. Can't apologize for wins, and they're still even though they don't have a dominant team the way they used to that we think the past couple of years. Uh, I mean, they're still Georgia. They're still two-time defending national champs. So one Michigan, two Georgia, three Ohio State. I love that win. I thought it was super impressive against Penn State. And again, they're undefeated. People are saying they play too close of games, but can't argue with that. Washington I have as four. I dropped them behind Ohio State after Ohio State had a pretty good win against Penn State. Washington was a little suspect, at home against against Arizona State this weekend. And then 5, I have Florida State. Florida State, a little bit iffy for a couple of games, but they started to turn the corner. I think they're a true top 5 team.
All
Oh,
right.
who do I have at 6? I think you asked me for 6.
Yeah, top six. Yeah.
What do I got at 6? 1 second. I think I have Oklahoma at 6
Well, I'm at
because
six.
Oklahoma. I mean, Texas, like we were saying, Texas potentially a fraud watch, but like Oklahoma's offense is really good. I think UCF is better than people think, and John Reese Plumlee came back, and that was a really good game, and Oklahoma held them off. And I just think that line was just a mistake. I don't think they should have been favored by almost 20. But yeah, no, I think Oklahoma is a good football team, and I mean I think Texas is a good football team too, and Oklahoma played them really really well. So Oklahoma at 6.
All right. All right. For me, I agree with I have Michigan at 1. It's kind of like you said, they haven't played anybody, but they also haven't struggled. I think they struggled one game for like a quarter and a half or something like that. I forgot which one it was, but they just, I mean, they go out there, they handle business. And we've seen them do it before. Like we've seen them smack Ohio State, you know. So it's they definitely get a pass. 2, I have Georgia at 2, but I want to put Ohio State ahead of them. You know what I'm doing? I'm putting Ohio State at
Let's
2.
go.
I'm putting Ohio State at 2 because at some point I'm gonna reward Ohio State for playing somebody. They didn't have to play Notre Dame. They chose to, even though it's kind of they play them a lot, but I'm gonna reward them for that. They handle business. The Penn State thing, I'm not gonna reward them for playing Penn State. That's how the schedule worked out. But you got to win
Yep.
over Penn State. You got to win over Notre Dame. That's 2 top 10 wins. I think you deserve to be number 2 versus a team that hasn't played anybody in the top 10 and has struggled at times versus teams they shouldn't have. So Ohio State 2, Georgia 3 for obvious reasons. 2-time defending champs. If you want to put them 2, you want to put them 1. I can't really argue that because it's Georgia. Number 4, I guess you gotta go Washington. I went over Oregon. Exciting. Because it's kind of like you said, we're not sure how good they really are, both teams, but right now I'm going Washington 2, Oklahoma. Actually, no. Yeah, Washington 2, Florida State at 5, Oklahoma at 6. And Florida State, Washington, I think they're kind of up and down. I just think Washington, if they play, Washington would beat Florida State right now. So I
I
put
think so
Florida
too.
State. I put Washington at 4, Florida State at 5, but I have no problem swapping those 2.
Yeah, and the first couple, I mean, the first 3, I loved your case for Ohio State, to be honest. Like, and I'm rooting for Ohio State. Like Tommy Eichenberg, he's my cousin, so I'm rooting for him. Obviously, he captained that defense, and their defense looked awesome. Blanking Penn State is awesome. And when I say blanking, I just mean no touchdowns. But yeah, you argue all those, and then I think it's kind of like a 2-tier though. It's like a Michigan, Georgia, Ohio State, and then Washington,
Yeah.
Florida State, Oklahoma, right? So,
Yeah.
but it'll filter itself out. Like that's the good part. We're gonna narrow this down a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll find out more this week. So closing out, let's get biggest standouts and disappointments of the week. What do you got for us?
So I'll run through a couple, just high level. But I already mentioned this before. John Reese Plumlee coming back. I loved this line of plus 19.5 for UCF against Oklahoma. I just think he's an insane athlete, and they super underrated him. And Gus Malzahn able to put him in space, let him make some plays, and keep them in the game. And they came down to the wire, a 2-point conversion. So I got to give him some flowers. I already talked about Michigan taking care of business. Got to give Michigan flowers just because of that. And then Missouri is actually pretty legit. I think Missouri was my lock this week. They were -7, and I mean their passing game is awesome. Was it Bradley Cook? He's fantastic. So definitely love Missouri's offense, the ability to put up points. And then my personal standout, my personal I hate that I have to root for him, but Brian Kelly and his ego covering the over 60 against Army by themselves. They got a touchdown with 40 seconds left, a rushing touchdown of like 67 yards or something. And oh my God, that was the change of emotion of wow, they're just going to blow them out to he actually just covered the over because he just needs to make them relevant again after they have two losses. I have to shout that out. So yeah, those are some of my bigger standouts of the week. What else would you got at them?
For me, I want to give a shout out to Utah.
Mm.
That I think USC was very hungry. They wanted that game, and Utah said no. Like we're gonna take it in your house. So shout out to them. We give a shout out to Houston Cougars. Down 21-0
Mm-hmm.
versus Texas. They could have just said, you know what, we just don't have it this year.
Mm.
And Donovan Smith, I think he's one of the underrated transfer portal ads. He's been balling. He might be top three transfer quarterbacks this year, I
Mm.
think. So shout out to them. They battled. Didn't get it done, refs, but you know,
Not
I
going to
didn't
apologize,
watch the game.
man.
I didn't watch the game because conflict of interest on both sides. But that was definitely a first down. Whatever happened after that, who knows?
Yeah.
So shout out to them. And like kind of like you said, I want to shout out to UCF, man. They almost did it, and I thought they were
Mm.
going to. They still don't have a Big 12 win, but man, how would have been nice to get your first Big 12 win over Oklahoma,
Yeah, no, that would have been cool. And then
huh?
but no, and then last, I forgot about these, but Ohio State we already talked about, but got to do a double shout out for them. And then
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, huge shout out. Virginia won its
Yes.
first game against a top 10 team, I think, in their history. They were like 0-29 or something in their history against top 10 teams. But yeah, Virginia taking down UNC. I know UNC was maybe a little frauds, but still a win. You can't apologize for it. They looked pretty good doing it. So shout out to the Who's.
Yeah. And also Oklahoma State. And I mean,
Mm.
they look legit. Like everybody,
Mm-hmm.
Ollie Gordon. I mean, yeah, 280 yards rushing.
My God.
That is insane in college football in the Power Five. I mean,
Mhm.
and he balled last week too. I think he over 200 yards last week. I mean, just give him the rock and get out the way. Honestly, at this point,
Yeah, let the offensive line push everyone out of the way and let them run, man. My
Jesus
goodness.
Christ, that is insane. So Ollie Gordon, keep balling, man.
Mhm.
Um, disappointments. What we got?
I mean, obviously USC. We talked about USC. Huge disappointment. They just can't get it done. I mean, disappointing personally for Caleb Williams. I think this. I obviously this knocks him out of the playoff talks, but I think this knocks him out of the Heisman. Like it just, he just has not looked good. And part of the Heisman voting, whether it's bias or whatever, you can't vote for someone who did worse than they did the previous year. Like that's just not going to happen. So definitely disappointing for him. We just talked about Virginia. I had UNC on my disappointment list, but I wanted to flip that and give Virginia some flowers and say that they're the shout out instead of UNC disappointing. But UNC was disappointing. We already talked about Penn State, Ohio State. It's just disappointing for James Franklin. I mean, what can you do? He can't win the big ones. He can't really compete at that level. They're clearly at a tier above the other teams in the Big Ten, but they just can't beat the big brothers of Michigan and Ohio State. And then shout out to the refs of the Iowa and Minnesota game. I don't even know what would have been a funnier outcome, what happened, or if Iowa won that way, and then people just got even more triggered at the way Iowa wins football games because that was absurd. I mean, it was like Cooper DeJean just like was waving off people trying to return the kick, very, very obviously, like hand below his chest, like waving off people, and takes it to the house, and they call it back, saying that he was fair catching the ball, and then they lose because Iowa can't actually move the ball. They have to score on special teams or defense. So just absolutely absurd. And Cooper DeJean, just insane athlete himself, right? So he's already I don't know how he's underrated, but he's still underrated in terms of being a D back. But yeah, that's definitely disappointed and for Iowa. But It was fun watching the Brian Ferentz, point watch, but at this point, I think they got to average like 34 points a game for him to
Was
to
it? I
keep
thought it
his
was
job.
25 or something.
Oh no, but like where they stand, they've gotten
Oh yeah,
so low that
yeah,
if he
yeah.
if he doesn't average 34 a game, I think he's that's
They
like
got to
what
keep
it's
pushing it
currently
back.
at.
That bowl game is gonna be big.
Yeah, he's gonna try and put up like 80 in a bowl game. It's gonna be hilarious.
I think
So
I forgot where I saw it. I think I saw it on Twitter. They were like, it's honestly smart for him that he doesn't make the Big 12 championship because he's not gonna score against Michigan or
oh
Ohio State. So it's like you're gonna have another game that you gotta
yeah,
make up for. You want the least amount of to average out, make it a little bit easier on you.
that's very funny. Yeah.
But for me, I got a couple disappointments. First is TCU.
Mhm.
I mean, come on, 3 points.
Yeah, Kansas State dog walked them.
Just got absolutely blitzed from the
Mhm.
jump, and it's just. I mean, I don't think anybody thought they'd be the team that they were last year, but this big of a fall from playing in the national championship is still kind of shocking for me.
Mhm.
Another one, just this goes for both teams, Mississippi State, Arkansas. What what the hell did I watch? I didn't watch it. I lied. I'm not gonna. I lied. What the hell did I watch the highlights
Yeah,
of?
yeah. What the hell did I see 10 points on scrolling across the bottom of my
Oh
screen?
my god! I thought it was an error when you didn't have the ticker. I'm like, there's no way it's 7-3 in the fourth
Yeah.
quarter right
Yeah,
now.
would you
What is
say
going on?
Q1? No, Q4? What?
It's insane. I thought it was like a rain delay or something,
Mm,
but I mean, Arkansas they let go of the offensive coordinator, rightfully so.
mm.
Figured that one out because with KJ Jefferson is a really good quarterback. I mean, you can't be scoring
Yeah.
3 points. That's sad,
Mm.
genuinely. And one somebody that talks the most, and granted, I say he's earned the criticism because of his success. People expect big things from him, and with success comes pressure. Clemson,
Let's go.
you can't be losing to a backup quarterback. You're the Clemson Tigers.
Hmm.
You're the class of your conference for the last 10 years. Tyler Van Dyke wasn't there. You got to figure out a way. You got Cade Klubnik, good quarterback, good
Yeah.
pieces. You got to figure out a way. And Dabo, he did all this talking. Did you hear what he said?
Mm. Pre-game
Before
now.
he was like, people he was saying like, people expect us to, win out and go 13-0. Maybe if we lose some games, they'll get off my back. And then you
That's
go
not
out
how that
there,
works.
and then you go out there and you lose to Miami. It's you. I don't like how he is like firing back because people have a high expectation of him. That's what you should want. You think people
Hmm.
want to expect you to lose? You would be upset if everybody was picking you to lose every game. You feel some type of way. So they pick you to win, and you get upset about that. And you can't say that maybe we should lose a couple of games, then you go out there and lose to a backup quarterback.
Yeah, oh my God. I can't I just don't understand. Is it like, did he have good coordinators in the past that all left him and now he's,
It doesn't
stuck?
make
It was
any
he just did he
sense.
recruit certain people like and now because I know Cade Klubnik, excuse me, fantastic recruit and he's
Yes.
super talented, but I'm watching him in this offense and I think they had the ball at like the 4 yard line or something and it was first and goal and they just couldn't move the ball at all. Like they had like two dives at the middle. They tried to to scramble him out and then they had like a weird rolling to his opposite shoulder and like throwing and nothing worked and they went for a fourth down, didn't get it and it blew my mind. I mean, also personally mad at them because they ruined a parlay I had that we talked about in the gambling show. So obviously mad about that. I'm a little salty, but I mean, Clemson is 4-3. They still have Notre Dame. They still have UNC, who I know UNC is not, top 10 UNC, but those are still two pretty good games on the schedule. They're not really a great football team, and like I can't believe that like we're sitting here in not a super talented ACC and we're looking at Clemson with potentially 4 or 5 losses, and Dabo is like trying to defend this. Like he doesn't have the best players on the field, and he played a backup quarterback in Miami. Like what are we doing here?
Yeah, I mean, his whole thing with him, like rebelling against the transfer portal, it's it's sad. It's honestly, I think he knows that he needs it, but I
Mhm.
think it's pride. You know, like when you know you should do something. It's like when you were a kid, like you know you need to clean your room, right?
Yeah.
And you're about to clean your room, and then your mom comes in and says, "Clean this room. What are you doing?" You're like, you know what? I don't even want to clean it anymore. I was about to do it, and then here you come screaming at me. So now I'm not gonna clean it. It's like one of those things. That's what it feels like. Like he knows he needs players from the portal. Then you got your boosters, everybody telling you how to do your job. He was
Mhm.
like, you know what? Forget you. I'm gonna show you that I don't need it. I was gonna do it, but now I don't want to. That's
I
just
was
what it
say
feels like.
I still feel like that all the time. So I can't
Yeah.
I hate that you related to that because I'm like, am I feeling bad for Dabo right now? No, 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 no. But no, yeah, it's exactly that. It's definitely him also being stubborn. Maybe the success went to his head, and he just was like, no, no, I recruit the best. Like I'm keeping my guys, I'm sticking by them. And it's like sometimes it's just like a matter of making things work and not having to force your offense on a quarterback that didn't really want to run that offense that could throw the ball a lot better than doing RPOs.
Yeah.
Like I know Cade Clemson could run, but he's not DJ who, is a big guy who mostly was like running in Clemson's offense. Like Cade came in last year and threw the ball all over the yard. So just let him do that, man. Like let him cook a little bit. Like change your offense to fit your skill set.
Yep. Yeah. We'll see. All right, finish it off. Biggest takeaways. What we got?
Biggest takeaways. I think we talked about this a little bit, but we're honestly not sure who's really good. And my takeaway from that is we are so close, but yet so far away from a 12-team playoff that we need so damn bad. Like this would be such like all I keep thinking about when I'm like, oh man, I just wish all these teams played other good teams. I'm like, if we had a 12-team playoff, all of that would come together in like the most perfect way. So that's first takeaway, and then my second takeaway is honestly, I have no idea who's going to be the front runner for the Heisman. I think was it Jaden Daniels is probably going to be one of the front runners. Michael Penix Jr. did not look good, so he's definitely dropping out a little bit. Bo Nix is still up there. I think who's the current front runner?
Is it not Michael Penix?
No,
No.
I think he dropped out a little
Is it
bit.
Jaden Daniels?
Oh no, JJ McCarthy I think is up there,
No.
which I that's what I mean. It's
No.
not really there's not
No.
an answer. And normally by week 7, week 8, we get like, a couple of guys balling out that maybe we underrated or weren't sure of or whatever, but it's just it's never looked this cloudy. And I think I gotta start firing back up the articles of writing about Heisman to start to trigger people and get people's opinions because I don't really know who I would vote for right now. Like who would you vote for the Heisman right now if you had to vote?
Right now, if I had a vote,
After last night, Michael Penix Jr., I
last
don't
night
know if I
Michael
could vote, or
Penix,
2 nights ago.
Dylan Gabriel didn't look great. I mean, right now probably Jaden Daniels. Honestly, I think that LSU team would be terrible without him.
Yeah, that's what, and I mean Brock Bowers injured.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Brock
that
Bowers
stinks
hurt.
because he was single handedly carrying
Yeah,
Georgia's offense like for a couple of those games. I mean, Bo Nix is looking good, but I mean, I can't have him lose a duel to Michael Penix Jr.
and
and
have
then
him
vote for Bo
win it. Yeah.
Nix, right? So it's yeah, like I don't think I don't think Kyle McCord has done enough. Drew Lar certainly hasn't done enough. Jordan Travis has looked vulnerable at Florida State. And then I mean Caleb Williams is not the same Caleb Williams as last year, and I can't. That feels like a downgrade trying to vote for him. And he had 2 terrible games against both defenses that are somewhat relevant, right? So I don't know, man. I think that's my biggest takeaway is I'm still not only am I uncertain about like who is actually good. I don't even know who's good at good enough to win a Heisman Trophy.
Yeah. Um, it is. It's gonna be like I said. It'll all get figured out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think right now, Michael Penix probably still deserves to be the front runner. You shouldn't. I don't think you should lose that after one bad game because other players have had bad games. But the Heisman and really the rankings are what have you done for me lately? Like
Mm-hmm.
you just can't afford to have bad games late in the year when you don't have games to make up for that. So
Yeah.
You can
He
have
still has
one.
time though. He still has time.
You can have one, but
Mhm.
if this game happened a month from now, might he might have lost in the Heisman.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaway from this week, and what I'm really curious to see next week, is how do teams adjust to some of these key injuries? The heart and soul of Georgia was
Mhm.
Brock Bowers. Georgia didn't play this week; they had a bye week, but that offense ran through him.
Mhm.
Carson Beck, that's pretty much who he leaned on. I think Georgia has a lot of good pieces other than Brock Bowers. I think they have like three good tight ends. Not as good as Brock Bowers, but they probably start on most college football teams. So
Yeah.
I want to see how that offense does. Then that'll tell me how good Georgia is, because when you take away that and you still can figure it out, that's what I want to see. And then we got to talk about our boy.
Gotta
Our
bring
boy
it up,
Quinn
man.
Ewers is looking like he's gonna be out 3 to 4 weeks. I've heard a lot of talk about Malik Murphy. You know,
I gotta be honest, man. I know we were both on the train of him. We were both huge fans of him.
mm-hmm.
Talked about him on the Big 12 preview all the way at the beginning of the season.
Yes,
He he didn't look as good as I wanted him to look. I'll be honest.
he
I need him
didn't,
to show
but
me
I
more.
mean, he's kind of thrown in there. You're right. Get him.
First game. Yeah.
And I think I want to see how Sark changes the offense, because I think you can do a lot more running the ball with Malik than you can passing with Quinn.
Mhm.
So not just Malik. Let's see how good Sark is. Can you adjust, or
Yeah.
do you need the best guys, or can you develop? Um, so that's what I'm gonna be looking for. Kirby Smart, how do you deal without Brock Bowers?
Mhm.
Steve Sarkisian, how you deal without Quinn Ewers, when we know they can play. I know Malik Murphy can play.
Yeah.
Can you put him in the best position to play?
Yeah, no, he's a baller. We know he can play. I'm excited for because everyone immediately started chanting, like not chanting, like online was like, "Oh, Arch Manning's the backup." Like, when are we going to see him? And I'm like, just you wait, man. Like, I guarantee in the next week or two, you're going to get like a 60-yard air touchdown from Malik Murphy, and everyone's gonna be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, he could throw." And it's like, yeah, man, he was like a finalist in the Elite 11. Like, he stayed at Texas for a reason. Like, he knows his time is coming, and now he's thrust into it. And this is, if anything, a tryout for him next year to just walk in with the starting job, right? So you don't really want, if you're Texas, you don't fully want a QB competition. You want it to be competitive, but you want to have like the full tier of like
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers finishes the season, Malik Murphy's got his season, Arch Manning's got the future, like, and you could just keep recruiting off that. But we'll see, man, because he's got the talent, like we know that. But it's about Sark designing the offense to like fit him and not just plug him into Quinn Ewers' offense.
Yeah, it's kind of like we talked about with Clemson. Like, are you going to
Mhm.
run your offense, or are you going to run offense that's suited for your personnel? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. Another exciting week. College
Yeah.
football. Yeah, another big week ahead. We'll see. Hopefully, some of our questions that we have get answered. Um,
Yeah, no. It's always fun. Week 8, we're on the back 9 of the season, so
mhm.
we got to get some of these questions answered sooner than later. But we'll see.
All right, man. Doris, thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out George's gambling podcast. Go win some money. Need that
Yes,
beer
sir.
money.
Yes,
Need
sir.
that beer money for the weekend. So, check us out. We got a lot of stuff cooking. We'll catch you on the next one.